Hi, I'm Representative Walker Thomas, and I am actually your state representative if you live in the district or the counties of Christian, Trigg, or Caldwell counties. And today I'm going to try to read a book for you called The Beeman. It's by Lori Krebs and Valeria Sis. So we'll get started. All right, let me flip over to the first page here. So there's a poem at the beginning. It says, bees, there wouldn't be sunflowers, wouldn't be peas, wouldn't be apples on apple trees, if it weren't for fuzzy old, buzzy old bees, dusting pollen off of their knees. So that gives you a little idea of what we're going to talk about, the bee man. So here we go. Here is my grandpa, who's known in our town as the bee man. My father raised bees when I was a child. Here is his jacket with zippered up hood that covers his face just the way that it should when he visits his hives as the bee man. So he's layering up. He doesn't need the bees to sting him. Here are his gloves made of cotton and leather, protecting his hands in all kind of weather when he tends to his hives as the bee man. So see the face mask they wear too to keep bees from stinging your face. Here is the beehive where all of the bees sleep, tucked into a box called shallow or deep, and then placed on a stand by the bee man. Here is the smoker that quiets the bees, and a hive tool that opens the beehive with ease, for a much closer look by the bee man. So a smoker is something that it's kind of like accordion. You push it and the smoke comes out, and the bees actually just kind of go to sleep when the smoke hits them. Here is the queen bee who does her job well and lays tiny eggs in a six-sided cell. She's the heart of the hive, says the bee man. Notice how she's just a little bit bigger? She lays all the eggs for all the other bees there. Oh my goodness. Here are the drone bees with big bulging eyes and a large appetite supporting their size. They mate with the queen, adds the bee man. So see it's kind of like a Where's Wally here. You can't find the bee, but there's the queen bee and all the other drones there. Here are the workers, 10,000 or more, who gather the nectar to bring back and store in honeycomb cells for the bee man. Here are the house bees with swift-moving wings that dry up the nectar a worker bee brings, making honey for me and the bee man. Look at all the bees. Here's the extractor. It's clickety-clack, removing the honey from frames on its rack and filling up jars for the bee man. So he's removing the honey from the honeycomb. When we were young, my dad would cut pieces of honeycomb with the honey in it, and we would chew it like gum because it's either wax or honey, and the honey was sweet. So it was like bees made bubble gum. Here's some of the honey returned to the hive. It's food for the bees to help them survive the long winter days near the bee man. Here are the bees, protected from harm inside the hive, huddled cozy and warm. So they'll be here next year, says the bee man. So they wrap it in blankets to keep the bees warm. Now, I didn't know that. Here is the wagon filled up to the brim with bottles of honey collected by him and brought to the house by the bee man. So that's a lot of honey that the bees produced. Here are the muffins all warm and delicious and dripping with honey on Grandma's best dishes. That looks pretty good. I'm glad that my grandpa's the bee man. bees. So honeybees belong to the insect family. They have 6 legs, 3 body parts, head, thorax, and abdomen, 2 pairs of wings, antennae, and compound eyes that let them see in all directions. A honey begins as an egg placed in a tiny cell by the queen. The egg hatches into a worm-like creature called a larva. The larva changes into a pupa, and hidden inside the tiny cell, the pupa turns into a honeybee. When it hatches, the bee is fully grown and ready to be a member of the colony. It takes about 3 weeks to go from an egg to a honeybee. They don't take 9 months like people. Honeybees live in a large group called colonies. A colony of honeybees has 1 queen, several hundred drones, and tens of thousands of workers. The queen bee has a slender body and is longer than the other bees. She is also the mother of them all. Her job is to lay eggs. In spring's busy season, she lays between 1,000 and 2,000 eggs every day. So the drone bees are male bees. They have huge black eyes and plump bodies. They don't work inside the hive or collect nectar and pollen. They just mate with the queen. Worker bees are female and they have many different jobs. Sometimes they feed on the larvae and tidy up after the hive, or they create wax and use it to make new cells. Sometimes they groom the queen and give her a rich protein food called royal jelly. Or they protect the hive from enemies by standing guard at the entrance. Sometimes they leave the hive to gather nectar, pollen, or water. Their jobs depend on what the colony needs them to do. So beekeeping, diseases and pests have killed most of the wild honeybees. So today beekeepers take care of the colonies. They provide weatherproof boxes where the bees live. They act as insect doctors and supply medicine to keep the colony healthy. They check the queen to see that she is strong and that new bees are developing. Just before fall, the beekeepers harvest the hives, extra honey, making sure that they put enough honey back in the bees to use all winter long. Beekeepers have special clothing that help them do their job safely. They wear long gloves, coveralls, boots, and a hood with protective veil to keep away curious bees. A beekeeper's hives are the boxes where the colony lives, raises its young, and stores its honey and pollen. Large wooden boxes called deeps are placed in the bottom. Stacking on top of the deeps are shallow, smaller boxes that hold the honey. As they are filled, more shallows are added by the beekeeper, and the tower grows taller. Frames and honeycomb cells. Frames are man-made wooden rectangles that support the honeycomb. They are lined up in the shallows and deeps like folders in a filing cabinet. The honeycomb is their cluster of wax cells built into the frames by the bees to hold eggs, larvae, pupa, honey, or pollen. There's that smoker I was talking about early. Beekeepers use a metal container called a smoker, in which they build a smoky fire. When beekeepers inspect the hive, they puff the smoke to calm the bees. A hive tool is used to help the beekeeper pry open the hive to examine it. This is the extractor. When it's time to harvest the honey, beekeepers remove the frames from the shallows. With a hot knife, they cut away the wax cappings from the cells and place the frames inside a large bin called an extractor. It spins the frames and honey splashes against the walls, collecting at the bottom of the bin. Beekeepers open the extractor spigot and fill their jars with the tasty liquid. About honey. Honey tastes delicious. I'm sure most of you all have all had that. People have enjoyed it for thousands of years. At first, it was gathered from the nest of wild bees. Later, people made hives of clay or straw and kept bees and the honey that they made near their homes. Honey begins as a nectar, the sweet watery juice inside a flower blossom. A worker bee unrolls her long tongue called a proboscis and sucks up the liquid just as though they were using a straw. Back in the hive, other workers put the nectar into cells and fan it to dry out the moisture. After many trips to the flowers and lots of fanning, the nectar juices thickens into honey. And when the honey is ripe, the bees cap the cell with wax to keep it fresh. Pollination. Honeybees are important insects. Without them, we wouldn't have many delicious fruits, nuts, and vegetables. As bees travel to find nectar, they brush past the part of the flower that holds powder-like grains called pollen. The pollen clings to their hairy bodies. When they move on to visit the next blossom, some of this pollen is left on the seed, making part of the flower. Because of this, in time, fruits, nuts, and vegetables will grow. Honeybees help by carrying the pollen from one flower to another, allowing the process of pollination to occur. Bee dancing. I don't know what bee dancing is. It sounds like a new breakdance song. Did you know that honeybees dance? Well, they do, and their dance tells their workers where nectar is found and how to get there. If food is close by, then they do a round dance, circling or running in circles, first one way and then the other, allowing the workers to smell and taste what they have found. The faster they dance, the richer the supply of nectar. If food is further from the hive, they do a wagtail dance. The longer they waggle, the longer the trip will be. Making a half circle in one direction, they turn sharply and waggle in a straight line until they again turn sharply and make a half circle in the opposite direction. The orientation of the dancer inside the hive tells the workers the direction in which they should fly. Now, I did not know bees danced. Well, I think that's about it. I don't think I'm going to read you the Grandma's Apple and Honey Muffins, but I will show it here in case y'all want to screenshot it and actually make honey muffins at home, because that sounds really good. Well, thank you for letting me read a book with you today, and I really enjoyed it. And if there's ever anything I can help you with the state or so, you let me know.